So, Berto, it's been a while since we've done an episode about music, and people have been asking us to talk about the psychology of music, so let's do it, Berto. What do you say?
Sounds fascinating.
This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor, and my favorite chord is probably an A suspended. Is that what, A suspended chord?
Like A suspended 2 or 4?
On a guitar, when you just do the 2 strings, an A, it's an A.
It's the 4th, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
An A suspended 4 is my favorite chord.
That is a very nice chord.
My second favorite chord is a C major 7th. I just love that chord as well. Berto, who are you?
My name is Humberto Castañeda. Okay, my favorite chord of all time, I think, is going to sound super cheesy, but is the C major chord. And I'll explain, of course. Well, how can you go with C major?
Well, so let me play these chords so people. So the A suspended is. So let me turn up my guitar here. So it's A suspended 7. U2 loves this because then they resolve it to the E. And then my C major 7th is. Yes. Or another way to play it is. If my guitar was in tune. And then a C chord is just
do a plain C, especially if you play it on the piano, because can you guess why it's my favorite chord?
Because you're a happy fellow and you like happy chords.
Well, I think it's a couple simple reasons. It's the first song I learned on the piano, which was Let It Be. And not only is it Let It Be, but it's also Imagine. So quite possibly the 2 favorite songs from Paul and John, just C major. So, can't go wrong there.
Yeah. So upper tier patron Bad Wolf had an email and said, "Will you discuss music with Humberto more often? I've been listening to your older podcast episodes, and I fell in love with your song about Tiger Lily. It had me crying at work. I really enjoy listening to you guys talk about music and listening to music you guys create. I hope we can maybe get more of it. Just know that little old me from Oklahoma is loving Bread Knife Incident, black heart emoji." So in that episode, we talked about, it was years ago that I thought we would do this little segment at the end of every episode where people wouldn't have to listen, but if they wanted to, they could stick around and hear us talk about songs that we've written. And
I remember this, yeah.
Yeah, it was sort of like the podcast Song Exploder, where we would sort of break down how we wrote it and how we came up with it, because it can be kind of interesting, or at least we like to nerd out on that. And we did it twice. We did one of your songs and we did one of my songs, and then there was such a lack of reaction. Apparently I did all for you, which is about Tiger Lily. And I thought I would just, so I got this new guitar, by the way.
Wait, you got another guitar? Show me.
So this guitar has an amp built in to the guitar.
What?
This song was written about 2 things. One is it's written about a cat that died, one of Berto's cats, named Tiger Lily. This would have been 14 years ago.
Yeah, 2007.
And, yeah, she loved to be outside and would roam around the neighborhood. And you lived on a quiet cul-de-sac, but she got too close to the main road. She got hit, and she didn't die though. And she was found almost dead, but then she died later, or that you had to put her down?
Yeah, she died at the the vet.
So I was so shaken by this that I had this image in my head of the cat, Tiger Lily, being hit by a car, and the car didn't stop. We imagined that the driver knew that they had hit a cat and just drove off, and I found that to be dark. And also, the metaphor is extended into a second realm of being broken up with, essentially being distanced from, like a cold marriage or something like that. So it has two meanings. It has this literal meaning of being hit by a car and being, you know, I have this image of speaking from Tiger Lily's perspective of watching the car drive off, you know?
Yeah.
And this image of someone coming into your life and running you over relationally, essentially. So I'm just going to play just a little bit of it. Oh, sorry. Oh, you're miles away on down the road. I lay upon the ground tonight. Did you even see me fall? You left me in darkness, broken after your kiss. I can still feel your breath, nothing for us now. And you just drive on and on. That's a song. And it legitimately chokes me up. Not only for Tiger Lily, but I guess it's probably a better time than ever to talk about my own cat that died. I know a lot of you know Michelle, and by this point, when this episode airs, I might have already posted on an Instagram, I'm not quite sure, but my cat, Michelle, many of you, the cat that you would hear on the podcast chiming in, she declined rapidly. She was sort of declining for a few months. You know, she wasn't eating as much. She wasn't moving around as much, but she seemed totally fine for the most part. You know, a little bit seemingly arthritic, a little bit hard of hearing, but she was 15, and I've had cats live well into their 20s, and so I thought, you know, we've got a long time with her. And then she started, I mean, I won't go into the details, but a lot of health problems, and brought her into the vet a number of times, and just really great doctors who said, you know, look, here, we could do a couple things, maybe give her another couple months, but it'll be painful and it might not even work. And, you know, it's time. And so we, you know, I had to make that choice. Me and Stacy had to make that choice to put her down. And
that's so hard, man.
Yeah. I see her out of the corner of my eye still. I'll be like, oh, you know, nope, she's gone. You know, it's the helplessness that gets me. And I've cried, you know, a lot by myself with Stacy in the vet's office. It's the helplessness that really gets me. The Tiger Lily was helpless when she got hit by a car. Michelle was helpless as she gets dragged to the vet to be euthanized. Just the frail little, you know, fuzzy body and the innocence of a cat. You know, the love that they give you, and the chapters of your life that they are always there. They never complain, really. You know, they want to be with you. And, you know, it's all for you, you know, the way, and then they're just taken away from you. And it's just a huge tragedy, you know, that pets don't live very long. And, so we have to go through this so often. And it sucks for them too. And so, like I said, you know, I've sort of waited to talk about it because, I don't know, it just felt private to me. And I know a lot of you listeners probably were attached to her as well. So I know that this might be hard for you, you know, just because you never met her, as some of you have met her, Berto included, but I know that it can be hard. So, you know, we're all here to remember the beautiful fuzziness of Michelle and the assertive meowing of Michelle and the involving purrs of Michelle.
Yeah.
The interrupting purring of Michelle. And, she was great. And her ashes are now on the mantle next to several other animals that have died recently in our household. And I know, Berto, you lost your cat.
I did lose a cat recently too. Similar situation. She was getting on in years. She had health issues. It was, there was a procedure that I could do, and I did it, and it was, pricey. And then after that, it was not gonna work. So made the very painful decision to also put her to sleep. And man, because of the pandemic, it was like a kind of thing where the person came to my place instead of me going to where they do it. And it was just holding her and looking at her and saying, and remembering that I got her when she was little, just newborn, really. She was being quote unquote taken care of by a friend of mine who really should not own cats. And so I adopted her. And she was an introvert. She attacked my legs constantly, left scars for real. But over the years, she mellowed out, and she always was an introvert, but we just, went through so many years together. And then at the end, me being the source of her final demise, it was brutal.
Yeah.
Her looking at me with those eyes like, what's going on?
Yeah. We both got Michelle and Terracotta at the same time. Around 2008. And because it would make sense that after Tiger Lily died, that's when
that's right.
got Terracotta. And Terracotta was great. Had a very had a modus operandi when it came to petting the cat. Anyway, yeah. So I know
if you pet her, she would always be like, bite.
Well, so here was the pattern. She would look at you, and she was curious, and she'd want attention, and then I would, particularly because I know how to make cats feel comfortable, and she was kind of skittish sometimes, but I knew how to approach her in a way that I'd make a mission of it. Sometimes you wouldn't see me for half an hour at your house because I'd be in your bedroom sort of coaxing the cat out of the closet or something. And then she would warm up, and she'd look like, oh, okay, this is good. She starts purring, and then she'd always flop on her back, and she'd be like, okay, rub my belly. So okay, rub her belly, and then she would attack. And it's like, well, which do you want? Do you want the pets or do you want the attack? And you never clipped her claws, and so you didn't even sort of shave her back. And so she was extremely vicious. She'd go from zero to 8 in a split second. And that's okay. I guess because in the beginning I tried to power through it. I tried, let's see if we can redirect to a different petting scenario. And she was like, nope, we've crossed the Rubicon. I'm now in fight mode. So. Anyway, so let's get back to the topic of psychology of music. So, Facebook fan page mods and the Discord mods actually gathered a bunch of questions, bro. So, someone on the fan page said, please discuss negative music and how it actually sometimes makes miserable people feel less alone. Therefore, it makes them feel better. Asking for a friend, laughy face. So, Berto, what do you think? Negative music and how it actually sometimes makes miserable people feel less alone and makes them feel better.
Oh, interesting. Well, so there is the phenomena, I don't know if you would call it negative, but when grunge music came out, and specifically I think when Nevermind, when Nirvana burst into MTV and onto the airwaves, I think a lot of people, the reason they could sort of relate or find some solace in it is because there was this attitude of like, everything is rough around the edges and sucky, but who cares? Because we're just rock and roll. And I'm sure I'm butchering the ethos, but at the same time, that was kind of the thing. Grunge was like, you don't have to be polished and you don't have to sing lyrics that even make sense. But we're just going to like be here, and life sucks anyway, so who cares? And I think it did bring a sense of happiness in a weird way. I mean, when I first heard Smells Like Teen Spirit, and by the way, I was a latecomer to Nirvana. I was a latecomer to a lot of things. So that was the first song of theirs I heard. I heard it on the 107.7, The End radio station.
Yeah, the main alternative radio station in Seattle.
Right. And I was sitting there, and I remember it just came on, and I was like,
actually the only alternative
it
radio
just
station.
blasted me in the face with how it starts soft and then it just blasts you. I loved it. I didn't catch the angst, I guess, because I just thought it was a well-written song. And I mean, I didn't understand what the hell he was saying, but I thought musically it was quite compelling and very energetic. And I remember I called Ty Verzoni, or maybe I talked to him the very next morning. I'm like, did you hear that song? He's like, oh yes, Nirvana, yes. And we were just geeking out about it, like how amazing it was and how loud it gets soft. And so that had quite an effect. But then I did notice that a lot of people that were into the goth scene, actually not only they liked that song, they liked a lot of songs by Nirvana too. And they generally liked pretty depressing music. So, and gave him some fulfillment.
Yeah. So the way I'd answer this is, and it's, highly phenomenological, but negative music like Depeche Mode or death metal, something that's the opposite of happy, the opposite of pop music, happy pop music. Why do miserable people why do they like it? Why does it improve? Well,
The Cure.
I think The Cure, I mean, some Cure songs are extremely happy, but some are, on the goth side. I think that it validates people when you feel sad and alone and angry and isolated and rejected, and then you hear music that evokes that feeling, and you hear lyrics that at least point in that direction. It reminds you that there are other people like you who are, there's a emotion, there's a whole set of emotions that can only be expressed through art and cannot be expressed through language. And any good song will do that to me, whether I wrote it or I listened to it, where every song that I love, I can tell you the emotion that it triggers in me, but it never gets to what the emotion actually is. It's totally beyond words. And I'm not saying it's like some complicated mixture of emotions, it's like a dash of this. It's literally like a different emotion that we don't have a word for. So many songs are like that for me. And and a lot of art is like that, an abstract painting that is just like one color. And if you're into that sort of thing, you look at it and you're like, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I know it's doing something to me. And you just can't put it into words. You can't say, oh, I'm feeling happy or I'm feeling motivated by this. You can't put it into words. And so when you can be touched through art, through a song, but from an artist to you're 13 years old and this artist writes this song and it feels personal. You feel like this artist gets me, man. No one else gets me. And words don't even get me, but this song gets me. When I heard Blasphemous Rumors when I was 14 years old by Depeche Mode, I was like, holy crap, this band gets me. At the time it was Madonna and Michael Jackson and I didn't feel like they got me. Depeche Mode got me, even though I didn't really know what half the songs were about. Early REM, they got me. And Husker Du, actually, who influenced Nirvana when I was in high school, they got me. I didn't always know what they were talking about either. But so when you hear Kurt Cobain or all the guys in Nirvana, they'll say Husker Du was a big influence. Husker Du was essentially, if you don't know the band, they were the original, even before the Pixies, where they combined sort of, with Nirvana, they combined like punk and metal with pop, which hadn't really been done in that way before. And Husker Du was doing that long before Nirvana did, in a really good way. And when I discovered Husker Du, I remember I would be walking around my high school with my Walkman on, and I'd be listening to some Husker Du, and it's so angry, and it's sad but angry. It's not just like metal angry. It's like like a lot of Nirvana songs where it's like it's angry, but it's also sad, and it's hard to describe anyway. But I just remember it just made my day to walk through the fakery of high school and the annoyance of I don't know how to describe it, just the pressure and all the pent up emotions you have at that age, and to just feel this energy of just like dun 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 dun, could you be the one they talk about? Life is a game that only you can make, and you're just like, you feel validated, you feel alive, you feel like the world has meaning and
right,
a connection to the earth or to the universe, or I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
Also, I think that music, if there's a lot of anthropologists who will hypothesize about this. Music wasn't invented when we had Spotify, or when we discovered LPs. Music was around way before, and 200,000 years ago, it's likely there was some form of music, whether it was just humming to a infant child, or singing as a way of coordinating a group of workers, or soothing people at night as the wolves were circling the camp. It's a way of coordinating. It's a way of soothing, and the heartbeat of your mother when you're in the womb. Dun, dun. It's no mistake that a lot of songs are tempo synchronized with the average human heartbeat. The average human heartbeat is 60 beats per minute, and the average tempo is 120, which is just double that. The half notes essentially are on the heartbeat, right? The quarter notes are on the 120, and the half notes are on the 60. And so it doesn't seem, who knows, but it doesn't seem to be a mistake. And how we feel when we have a song at 145 BPM, it feels rushed.
Right.
It's like a stroke song. Stroke songs are faster. They feel like they're pressuring forward because they're faster than the average heartbeat. I feel that we associate that with running, with anxiety. And slow songs are slower than that, because that's when you're relaxed by the fire and everything's, relaxing.
Right.
And when we hear a song that speaks to us, it goes deep. But now I'm just sounding like a stoner. What do you think, Berto?
No, it's absolutely true. Like, as you were saying, things that where they got you, which is funny. I was thinking about it as you were saying that, and I was thinking, when was the first time I felt that music got me? Because I've had a very close relationship with music, as you know, since I was a baby. But at the same time, I've mentioned that I've never liked being into scenes, right? And number one. Number two, I used to be a lot more transactional about music, meaning I would like a song, like that's a good song. And I didn't really necessarily know the artists or care even. Okay, so put that in as the backdrop. So then I was asking myself, when did I feel got it? It wasn't Depeche Mode. I love Depeche Mode. It wasn't like Nirvana or something like that. But when was it?
Oh, what a lonely boy.
No. That's too late. But I see where you're going with it. So then I came to two angles. First one was definitely in my later years, but when I was probably in my teen years, really. Billy Joel. And specifically, his first album, Cold Spring Harbor. There is a song in there called Tomorrow is Today. And the lyrics of that song got me. Because he's saying, I've been living for the moment, but I just can't have my way. And then he's talking about how tomorrow is today, but he's like fantasizing, dreaming the whole day away, essentially. And it just resonated so deeply with me, especially in my 20s. Like I always felt like, oh man, every day it's like my head is in the clouds and I'm wishing for tomorrow, but tomorrow's already here because I wasted today. Like it just got me. So I was thinking maybe that's the first time someone got me. But then I remembered the Carpenters when I was really little. And I remember listening to her voice.
Yeah.
And listening to her words. And there was also this connection because my mom liked her and she sent me a little tape with 2 of their songs and also Rocky Mountain High by John Denver. But so I would listen to their songs and she got me. I felt God. I felt like, oh, she gets life. She gets something that I am or believe in. Sing a song, make it simple to last your whole life long, and then the Top of the World and like all these songs just, that was the first time I felt God.
So we have a lot of emails we got to get to, and I know that you're on a time crunch, so I'm going to just kind of race through, and then we're also going to get to at least one of your songs, Berto, that you wrote, and we'll play a clip from that. Someone else on Facebook, I don't know the names, I'm sorry, but they said that they wrote an article on the psychology of music published in Psychology magazine here in the UK. Yeah, they said that here in the UK. Music changes our brains. So this is the words in this person. Music changes our brains to be more similar on a cellular level just by experiencing the same music. Could this be the evolutionary purpose of music and art? On an evolutionary level, it seems to serve no adaptive purpose except to bond us. Like sex, which is a dangerous thing to do on the savannah, was needed to reproduce and bond. It seems that our brains tell us when we're less alone by listening to, performing, and dancing together. So, end of quote. So what this person is saying is the speculation, strong speculation, is that, like sex. So when you have sex, it's at least takes a number of minutes. You're vulnerable during that moment. You could be killed by a leopard or something, but it's important to take that risk because you need to reproduce, but also you need to bond. So there's always pros and cons to every evolved mechanism of our behavior. And why would we, because some species they reproduce in the span of like 3 seconds. The reason why is because, look, you just got to exchange some DNA and you're good. Why would we have this build-up period where it takes a while to stimulate it doesn't take a long time, but it takes a while. Why would we do it that way? Well, it's because we bond and it helps to, keep people as a couple. And with art, why would we do this? Because it seems likely that back in the savannah 100,000 years ago, we were dancing or singing or, doing rhythm things or something. Why would we do that when it attracts predators, when it attracts rival tribes, when it doesn't, you're not reproducing when you're doing art, you're not getting food when you're making art, you're not, it's not safety oriented there, but there seems to be something very functional about it that helps us to feel together. It helps us to feel bonded. It helps us to coordinate. It helps us to feel safe with each other. And it's not just an intellectual thing. It's a deep emotional, neurological thing that they show through research, that when people listen to the same music, their brains sync up, or when they perform things together, their brains sync up so that you are attuned to each other, each other, you feel together. In fact, one of the most profound human experiences I've ever had was there was this, I was in a band in college, and we would finally my songwriting ability had finally kind of arrived, I think, and I'd finally been in a band that was pretty good. And we wrote this one song. It was called 6/4 because it started out in a 6/4 time. So I just called it 6/4. And we, I wrote the song, and so I was telling everyone in the band, how it went, and everyone kind of made up their own parts. And like musicians talk about it being in the groove, right? You're in the groove. Get into the groove, as Madonna would say. Well, that's a metaphor for what it feels like to be in a band where you just feel like you're not really in the groove, and then when you find the groove as a group, as a collective, you just feel it, and it is euphoric. And I hadn't written any lyrics, I hadn't written any melody. All I had written is the guitar part and the rhythm and the sort of structure of the intro, verse, chorus. We played the intro, verse, chorus, intro, verse, chorus, intro, verse, chorus. We played it for, I'm guessing, like 35 minutes straight.
Wow.
It's probably a 45-second turnaround, but we all knew that we were euphoric as we were playing this because it felt so good. I had a similar experience with you, Berto, when you wrote
Aquarium?
Aquarium. And
why did I know you were going to say that? Because I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Because you changed it.
Yeah.
But at the very least, when we first jammed on it, and you said, I kind of want the guitar part to be kind of like this. And so I was picking out a guitar part, and we played it, the verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. We played it this one night for a long period of time, like way beyond you would need to rehearse a song or to develop a song. And I remember you standing there to my right, and there was a feeling about it. Yeah. You're playing bass.
Yeah.
And singing, and you hadn't really written the lyrics yet, I don't think.
No, I was probably mumbling, but it had that groove because I think we had the drum machine going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember, again, late at night, and I didn't want to stop, even though it was the same verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. I didn't want to stop. It felt so good.
Yeah.
And that's what this person on the Facebook fan page was doing a research study about, and what a lot of anthropologists will talk about. And I wish a lot of people think, well, I'm not a musician, or I can't songwrite. I wish everyone could have that experience in some form of art. And music really lends itself to that because it's so immediate. There's ways you can do it in, dance movement or dance or, painting or something with someone. But there's something about like a drum circle. A lot of people get attracted to that. I think for that reason, it feels so satisfying to be in sync with other people and to be riffing kind of, and to be just on the edge of it falling apart, but it working. And it's just an amazing experience, as you know, Berto.
It really is. And I think why we all enjoy concerts so much, because you get a glimpse of that. And that's why we clap, or you move your little cell phone or lighter back and forth, because you feel some of that. It's
interactive. You're in the room, you're with them. That's why a concert feels so different than just sitting at home listening on your earbuds. Another question on the Facebook fan page: does Kirk or Berto know instances of clients who had certain musical tastes and also had diagnosed illnesses? Do they notice some interesting patterns? Well, Berto, you're not a clinician, so I'll just answer this one quickly. Anecdotal, I don't assess this, but I will say that, some emo kids were often depressed and or thought about suicide, and they listened to emo music. Rave kids sometimes were into substance abuse problems, but really, it's not something that I ask. I guess 99% of my clients, I don't know what their musical taste was. Maybe I should ask more, but I suspect that it's not. There's not a huge correlation. Next question: the concept of the language of music by Derek Cook. It's an older book full. So someone on the Facebook fan page was right. It's an older book full of examples of common intervals, chord progressions, and motifs in Western tonal music that are used across various genres to evoke specific emotional responses. So, Berto, can you relate to this?
Yeah, and there's this chicken and egg question of what came first, the cultural influences of the music or the reactions, the emotional reactions. Right. Because, you and I, if I play you a nice major chord, I'm on the piano and I play a nice D major chord and I kind of arpeggio it. Yeah. It's like, you're not threatened by that, right? Right. But then I go down 2.
So this is the D major.
Yeah. Yeah, so nice. We're having a good time, right? But then all of a sudden, I play you, like an A minor. Like, what happened? Whoa, what's gonna happen? In our musical influences, this is a little darker. There's something. And then if I played you like, can you do an E diminished or an E?
So I have my guitar. I have my guitar toned down or turned down a whole step.
Or just play any full diminished 7 chord.
7 chord?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's diminished. It's a 7 chord.
Basically, if you play a full diminished or a diminished chord, it starts getting you in more evil. But then you could say,
chord?
well, not exactly. You need it's a minor with the flat 5th and the flat 7.
Minor with the flat 5th and the flat 7.
Yeah, that's a diminished.
Okay.
So then, in Western culture, as you probably know, the interval of that diminished, that's the C to an F sharp, that was called the devil's interval, the tritone, and it sounds evil, man. If you hit that, like play a C and an F sharp and just kind of, oh God, what's happening? That's evil. That's an evil sound.
Yeah.
But is that evil universally, or is that cultural?
Right.
Well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way you describe that. It's like, because every time you watch a horror movie, they will do a dissonant chord like that, or they'll go, like, they'll just go like, or, how would they do that? It'd be like, so, but if you're shown skeletons and zombies when you hear that music from the age of 2 forward, then which came first? Was it because they've actually done studies like this where they'll go to cultures that don't have any exposure to common music of India or United States, some tribe that is isolated from the rest of the world, and they'll play them tones that are very much associated with a particular emotion for us, and they'll have a completely different reaction.
Yeah. Now, so, I will add that, granted, if you just go by vibrations and
mathematics and
mathematics, it's true that when you have tones, like certain tones vibrate at, oscillate differently, and so
like that
could cause a physiological change in you.
Right. Like I'll just play a 5th,
Yeah.
So in the bottom note, there is an overtone of the 5th, and when you play the 5th, it syncs up with the overtone in the 5th.
Whereas when you play that diminished 5th, it's like, wait, what's happening?
Yeah, there's no overtone of the diminished, or there might be like really high up in the frequency, like but not very perceptive. And so when you do that, and particularly if I do like a half tone, and I go.
Right.
Then you're really off of not only the overtones, but you're out of sync with Western ideas of intervals, and so
absolutely. And then it's also hard to argue with. Like, okay, if you hear, even as a child, loud voices with loud strident notes going confutatis maledictis. Like, as a child, even without context, you might be like, I don't like what I'm hearing. Like, that sounds a little scary. Okay. Because it's loud, because it's in your face, because it's kind of sharp and
aggressive or something.
Aggressive and not well-rounded, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you hear, like, Mary had a little, that sounds more comforting, more rounded, more,
Yeah.
So that there could be something that is more like a predator sounds less well-rounded, more aggressive,
Yeah. So, I could talk for days about chord progressions and how they make me feel, but I'll give just 2 different examples that popped in my head. One, so there are two chord progressions, regardless of key. If you're familiar, just, I could play it in any key, that I thought I invented. There were chord progressions that I wrote, and having maybe heard it before but didn't recognize it. And then I thought I'd stumbled upon something. I don't remember thinking this, but I didn't recognize it as something I'd heard before. Then later on, I would hear music and I'd be like, oh, there's my chord progression. I must have heard that before. So let me give you an example. The very first time this happened, and this was a similar thing, but I was alone, where I just couldn't stop playing the chord progression because I loved it so much. And it's not, both of these chord progressions they don't really have a key. They don't follow the rules of typical music, but it still sounds good. So they're all major chords. It's, major B. I mean, this is down a half step. So it's A and E and G and D. So it's. So I thought I invented that, but it's actually in a lot of other songs. Like there's a Smashing Pumpkins song, Porcelina of the Vast Oceans, that actually has this. It's not in the same key, but it's, So I just thought I would play like a little bit of this song, and Humberto, we'll play one of your songs. So I wrote this in college. I was like 18, 19 years old.
I had a promise that I would not say, but I really think that I have to tell. Expectations that it would not come. Expectations of a different man.
Anyway, I couldn't stop playing that and singing to it, and then later realized that it's actually not a super common progression, but other people had written it. The other chord progression, which is a similar kind of mathematical principle that I was following, is this chord progression. And Humberto, both of these songs because we actually played both these songs eventually. So.
Oh yeah.
So if you don't know music, you're just like, I don't know, they're just chords. But if you're a musician, you hear there's something wrong, but it still sounds good. And I, again, wrote this chord progression thinking I'd invented something when I was like 25. And then I proceeded to hear Bob Dylan's Lay Lady Lay has the same chord progression. Roy Scott, Miss It So Much, has the chord progression. But
Bach had all of the above
right,
times 10.
Right. And so this song goes, and I didn't write the lyrics. My bandmate, Pete Knoll, wrote the lyrics, but I wrote the song.
It's the nervousness again. Yeah, I speak before the thought, and we've all been the creep. Opened when we should have knocked. Yeah, you say you don't pretend while you keep on leading on. But it's hard to see things through when you're tying off the knot. Yeah.
The chords they're not in a key. The first two chords are in a key, but then the third chord, you're like, what are you doing? And then the fourth chord, you're like, what are you doing? But it still works. It has this beautiful descending chromatic element to it, the same as the other chord progression I played, which I really love.
You used to tell me, or at least you told me at one point, that you didn't really give too much thought to lyrics, but you write really interesting lyrics.
Well, I didn't write those lyrics, but
okay, but fair enough. But your songs have interesting lyrics.
I consider myself a songwriter. I consider myself a chord progression creator. I consider myself an understander of music. I do not consider myself a lyricist or a poet. I've never considered myself, and whenever I get a chance, I love it when other people just write lyrics for me, because it just
interesting.
Every song I've ever written, I always write the lyrics last, and sometimes I write the lyrics at the last possible moment. We'd be driving to the studio to record a song, and I'd be writing the lyrics as we're driving there. I'd be like, "Crap, I got to write some words." And
lyric writing came super late for me. I thought I could write lyrics, and I realized well into my 30s that I couldn't. Like every song I'd ever written prior to my 30s, I looked back and I was like, I mean, I guess there was a germ of an idea, but I didn't really. And so it really was our project, Missionary, where I finally wrote lyrics that I'm not that I'm okay with, that I'm like, yeah, okay.
Actually, I like
fine.
your lyrics. You have some really unique turns of phrases and clever word choices, and your sort of the mindscape that you paint is consistent through the song. And
I appreciate that, but that's you're basing that on what you know.
Yeah.
And what came before, you wouldn't have made the same comments about.
Maybe, yeah.
But it took me a long time, and I didn't realize.
But I probably
it.
wouldn't listen to the lyrics. Like when I would listen to your music, I'm any song, I'm almost never listening to the lyrics. I'm almost always listening to literally everything else. But anyway, let's take a break. When we get back, Berto, let's analyze one of your songs. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right, we're back from the break. So I want to do a OPP, an Old Patron Prize segment here. Last time we did... Yeah, what's the song? What's the OPP song?
It's easy as 1, 2, 3.
Okay, I like it. So these are patrons that joined, a long time ago in December of 2015, and they're still patrons of the podcast today. We have Kelly from Redwood City, California. We have Kate, who doesn't have a place, but Kate M. And we have Louis Pavlov, who is from Rochester Hills, Minnesota, Michigan. We have Karen from Iviona, Michigan. Is Michigan, is it not? I think that is. I
hope so.
Yeah. We have Joanna from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, someplace I would go there every summer, Coeur d'Alene. We have Megan from Canton, Georgia, and we have Leanne, who doesn't have a place. So thank you so much for being a patron, not only a patron, but a patron for that long, almost 6 years.
Yeah.
Kelly, Kate, Lewis, Karen, Joanna, Megan, and Leanne, just,
incredible.
I mean, it's just so great. Thank you so much. Okay, so Berto, let's play one of your songs. And I asked you to get a song together.
I could sing one. How about I sing one of my songs?
Okay, yeah, do it.
And then maybe you can put the link to the reference in the note in the.
Well, it's on Spotify under Missionary. Is that?
Actually, this one is from Plastic Polly. See you next Wednesday.
Okay, so you can go to
the name of the album. Yeah.
Plastic Polly on Spotify. What's the name of the song?
The name of the album is See You Next Wednesday. The name of the song is Morning Sun.
Okay, this has a psychological bent to it.
Yeah. Let's see if I can even do this. Call someone and tell them that you need a friend, and tell them that you're lonely. Show them what you showed me. Use someone and feed them all the lies you want, and drag them down the spiral somewhere I'll never find you. Just take them to the dark, dark night. Is that the morning sun I see? Will it start warming part of me? 'Cause I have turned to ice and stone, and stop pretending nothing's wrong.
So what's the song
first
about?
Verse and chorus.
What's
and
that
I
song
encourage you to listen to the actual version because it's got music. All right, so this song I wrote about a dear friend and their addiction. And they would come to me for help.
Yeah.
And so, it says, call someone and tell them that you need a friend, and tell them that you're lonely. Show them what you showed me. And then use someone and feed them all the lies you want, and drag them down a spiral somewhere I'll never find you. And then the chorus part, or the pre-chorus, is just take them to the dark, dark night. And then the chorus talks about this morning sun. So is that the morning sun I see? Will it start warming part of me? Because I have turned to ice and stone and stopped pretending nothing's wrong. The significance for me was I continuously had hope, but the more times I would get contacted to try to help, the less hope I would have. And it would drag me down into the mess, into the maelstrom, into the spiral. And then I I just thought, okay, well, maybe the only way for me to see the morning sun is to turn away. And this is I've turned to ice and stone and stopped pretending nothing's wrong. Because for a long time, I thought I kind of denied the reality of the situation, or I hoped, I was like, well, we'll pull out of this nosedive together. But I was continuously disappointed. And quite honestly, I got to the point where I told myself that I needed to draw some boundaries and become cold enough, I should say.
Oh, interesting.
In order to even retain the friendship and potentially to help by not enabling.
Yeah.
I'm happy to report that we're still friends, and things have improved 1,000,000,000%. But I no longer am in a cycle that I was. So anyways, that's what this song is about. And it's really hard to write because on the surface, it feels like an indictment of my friend and their situation, but it's really more about me. It's about me breaking apart from that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I heard the themes, but I didn't know that's what it was about. But hearing that makes it richer as an experience to hear the lyrics for sure. So we have a lot of questions from people on Discord that I want to kind of race through. And then if we have some extra time, we'll do a little bit more ad-libbing. But Nini on Discord, and again, I want to thank Discord Guardian Zach for putting this together. Nini asks, which attachment style is associated with songwriting? Well, very quickly, I don't know. I couldn't find any research on it, but anecdotally, there doesn't seem to be any attachment style that's associated with songwriting. John Lennon seemed preoccupied, disorganized. Paul seemed avoidant, narcissistic. So those are pretty opposite spectrums. You could see how narcissism might help, being secure might help just kind of keep your life together so you can write some music, but maybe being disturbed or preoccupied or insecure might also help because you have longing and something to express. I think there are stories we tell ourselves about what makes a good songwriter, and I've just seen, as a musician myself, I've seen a lot of different kinds of people. Now, I could tell you what kind of attachment styles work well in a band because it's like being married to someone without the sex. I remember saying that early in my life, and in bands I was in, I was like, being in a band is like being married to someone without the sex. You have to negotiate, you have to work together, you fight, you depend on each other, you let each other down, you hurt each other's feelings. It's hard, and it's no wonder that bands break up all the time. And the fact that John Lennon only lasted in a band for about 7 or 8 years is, probably due to his issues. But anyway, Soft Noodles asks, do you and Berto have any songs that helped you get through difficult times? Berto, name one song that got you through a difficult time.
Oh, absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, so the one I'll say is Rocky Mountain High, John Denver. So this is a song that was in a tape that had 3 songs. It had 2 Carpenters song and this song that my mom sent to me when I was very little and I was no longer living with her. And so that song and the Carpenters ones had really strong significance to me, but it came back for me. So it was really weird. This movie series, what's that series where the Final Destination, where like they're getting on the plane and then one person escapes dying on the plane, but then death comes after him. Kind of a silly movie series. But the song that was playing in the plane was that one, Rocky Mountain High. And at the time, I remember thinking, oh man, how unfortunate, because now I'm going to have that association. Well, shortly after that, I had some really difficult personal times. Like I was going through, I was in a hard emotional place. I would even say I was feeling a bit of depression maybe. And I actually remember, I thought, well, what if I hear some John Denver and specifically Rocky Mountain High, because it's the song I've loved. And I was afraid at first. I'm like, but no, what if it's like the movie and by listening to that song, something bad happens? But I forced myself to not be superstitious and just listen. And it was glorious because that song, I mean, John Denver has a way to make things sound elevated to the highest of the high. And so, and then listening to the song, it's like, he was born in the summer. And it's like about someone, and he's longing for this place, and the mountains let him even speak to God. Oh man, it just lifted my spirits. It absolutely helped me.
Yeah. Yeah. John Denver, I don't listen enough to John Denver. There's about 5 songs that are just transcendent, for sure. For me, I don't really have a song that I can think of that got me through something, like a death or a, hard time in my life. I don't really have, I'm always listening to music. So it's like, I have these albums that are sort of associated with a time in my life, and that time had good and bad moments. There's bitter sweetness to the memories from that time. So it's hard for me to think, but, I will just come back to Depeche Mode and Husker Du in high school. Depeche Mode at the time was really alone, or at least one of the only artists in music that was creating sounds and moods of that type. I mean, you could argue that like Joy Division and early New Order, maybe early Tears for Fears, this kind of thing. But there was something about Depeche Mode that, and obviously Depeche Mode had really happy songs, particularly when they still had Vincent in the band. But like I said, Blasphemous Rumors, Fly in the Windshield, Everything Counts. These songs had such a mood, and I was a moody teenager, and it really helped me, I think, to have these songs to live with. I just remember, I'd put on the LP in my room, and I would just sit there and stare at the album cover. In fact, I have that album behind me. If you've ever seen the bookshelf behind me, Catching Up With, it's basically a best of album that came out like before they were big. It was like they came out with a kind of a compilation. And that album, it's a big deal to me. The other album is Warehouse by Husker Du. Again, that anger, that angst, the angst that people discovered when Nirvana came out. That's what I discovered with Husker Du. Leo asks, how much can you tell about a person or demographic based on the music that they listen to? What I'll say is that I don't know the research, but I'm quite positive that research has shown that based on, what style of music someone listens to, you could absolutely make some strong predictions of political views, age, gender, region, ethnicity, nationality, this kind of thing. I mean, the fact that I listen to, the fact that I named Depeche Mode puts me at a certain age, right? So you could say, well, he's likely an 80s teen. He is likely from a more urban area as opposed to a more rural area. He's likely an American, or at least either UK, or he's not likely from Indonesia, for example. So there are all sorts of associations that I'm quite positive you could draw.
Like
from
what's your favorite?
musical
What's your favorite Juan Luis Guerra song?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Leo asks, what about people who don't enjoy music? Berto, have you ever heard of these people?
Oh, yes. Well, and specific kinds of music. I think we talked about before the Beatles haters. That is its own category.
But some people don't like music at all.
Some people don't like music. Yeah, and I've met a couple of them in my life. Now, I almost feel sadness, right? Because it's not like they're lying to me. They're not doing it to be cool. They just really feel no enjoyment. And I've tried, like I've poked at it, like in fact. So one of these people I knew in college, I've lost contact, but it was certainly at the time I was in my band with people in college, and I thought at first maybe they were just saying that because they don't like our band or they don't want, but no, it was just really like music was not a thing in their life at all.
Right. And what Leo is asking is, why is this? Because it feels biological, and I think maybe Leo might be one of these people. So the first thing I'll say is there's a tremendous amount of stigma around people like this because they are rare, and there's this assumption that like they're a stick in the mud or something. But yeah, there seems to be a percentage of people who secretly or maybe outwardly just they see other people enjoying music, oh, I love this song, or I want to listen to this album, or I want to go to this concert, or that's the song I want to hear during my wedding. And they're just like, I do not understand you people. Like, music is just one of those things that you just have to endure, or it's one of those things that, it just sort of happens. I could relate to it. For me, there are, like with dance, for example, like ballet. I do not when I see ballet, I'm like, I get that it's hard. They're doing things that are very technically difficult, but I don't understand why people would spend their time and money going to a ballet to watch ballet. Like, why do you want to watch this? It's like, again, I get the technical, but I get no artistic pleasure from watching ballet. Maybe there are a couple moments where I'm like, oh, okay, that was kind of impressive, but I'm mostly listening to the music. I'm just like, the music I enjoy, but the ballet, I'm just like, I don't get it. But I look around me and I'm like, well, obviously there's something to this that I just don't get. And so I think that we can all relate to that. And for some people, music is that thing. They're like, wow, everyone's really they're spending a lot of time and energy on this thing, and I don't understand it. Why would that be? Well, we don't know. We don't know why we like anything, but it seems possible that it's biological. Some people are just born that way, meaning that their brain just doesn't sync up in the same way that kind of we were talking about earlier. Could be trauma. You could have trauma around music that just makes it difficult for you. You could also have grown up in a family that didn't listen to much music. For me, for example, I grew up with a lot of music in my life, and I know you did too, Berto.
Yeah.
At church, we sang all the time. At home, my dad, my older brother, my best friend Tommy put on LPs all the time. AC/DC, Beatles, Beach Boys, Kool and the Gang, Santana, The Knack, Stevie Wonder. To this day, when I hear those albums in particular, but when I hear music that kind of reminds me of that time, it touches me because, I was 3 years old, I was 7 years old, I was 10 years old, and I was with my family, either singing in church or listening to music. And so if you didn't have that experience and your family just never listened to music, then I could see how by the time you're an adult, it just doesn't feel like something that you're into,
Although I gotta say, now that I'm thinking about it, no one in my household in Colombia actually did listen to music. Okay, when I was very young, my dad was very much into classical music. But then he got on this kick where he actually didn't like it because he felt it was like too...
Bourgeoisie.
Yeah, it was like, yeah. So he didn't listen to music. My grandpa, and my grandma's sister, they didn't really listen to music, although they did. But when I think of
Colombia, I think of
lots of music, right?
And dancing and
they didn't. And then yet they had.
But your friends.
Okay, yes. So I listened to radio all the time, and then my best friend in the bus to school every day, she was a music nut, and we would sing songs together all the time, and. So I was obsessed with music. My cousin was obsessed with music, and a couple of my friends were obsessed with music. But it is interesting that my household was definitely not.
Yeah. Polar Bear Cabal says, why do songs get stuck in our heads? And is there any simple way to get rid of the song that may be stuck in your head for weeks or months? I'm just going to rattle through the research here. We call these earworms, of course. Jakubowski et al. Did some research on this. So the triggers for an earworm are you have an emotional state. So, for example, you're angry. You're pissed off at politics, and Rage Against the Machine pops into your head. Or you have associations, like an old friend texts you, and you remember a song you used to listen to, and then you have an earworm from that. Or you just recently heard a song. Or you heard a jingle in a commercial that you recently heard it, or you heard it enough times that it's just sort of in your brain. Or another trigger is that you're just not actively thinking about anything else. So earworms tend to pop up in our head when we're not occupied with other thoughts. And the melodies that they found that are more likely to become earworms are faster tempo. Is that interesting to you, Berto, that like faster tempo songs are more likely to become earworms?
Whoa.
Do you ever get an earworm? Like, what's an earworm that you get? Do you ever get one?
Yeah, but I mean, well, let me put it this way. I don't remember that often, or maybe not too much at all, getting annoying earworms. I just get songs that I like, that I end up, going over and 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 over in my head.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Right. Like that Roykstop song I mentioned earlier. Dun, 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 dun. Like it's funny. I don't think I ever thought about this because when people talk about earworms, I never thought about it, but I can't relate to it. I don't think I've ever had an earworm.
Yeah.
But I think it's because we enjoy it.
Yeah, and the things that are annoying, we don't think are good music, so we're like,
we don't think about it. Yeah. Or we have just an appreciation for music. Or, another thing that could be, Berto, is that we're songwriters. And so sometimes I'll write a song in my head, or we understand music so that maybe if we have an earworm, we can quickly replace it with something that we like or something. We have like...
Well, and you might be onto something because we are experienced with having to try to keep things running over and over and over in our head because we're trying to write it.
Yeah.
And we don't want to forget it.
Yeah.
And we actually actively recount it.
Yeah.
So that doesn't seem like foreign or weird.
Yeah. Like actually the current earworm in my head is, so I was actually doing a reaction video for YouTube to 90 Day Fiancé, and there was this long stretch where there wasn't really anything to react to, and so I picked up my electric guitar that I just got and I wrote this song, and so this has been the earworm in my head. So tell me what you think of it, Berto. Oh, sorry. So
oh God, now you've got an earworm in my head.
So I just, that's as I'm going through my day and my brain isn't thinking about anything, that tune will just kind of come, because I'm trying to figure out what sort of song it's going to be, I'm thinking, is it sort of like a spacey song? And it's actually like 5 bars, which I tend, anyway. Also,
there's a song that Eric Lindman wrote back in college. So how many years ago? And to this day, like we never even finished the song. I made like some version of it, but to this day, randomly, even just now, the little intro, because it was just this very simple on a G and must be a C or something. Like it just goes dun 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 da da. Bum 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 ba, and that like pops into my head all the time.
But you don't dislike it because you like it.
No, it's fun, and in fact, it's kind of groovy. And then I start singing the lyrics I remember.
Yeah, I wonder if there's something about that, like because people often talk about earworms, and I'm always like, I don't think I get earworms, because people talk about it like it drives them nuts.
Like it's bad.
But you and I, when we have these things running through our head, we enjoy it. We're like, yeah, I'm working on something, or I like being reminded of that little moment. Anyway,
right.
Also, having a rising and falling contour is another melody that tends to become an earworm. So something goes, sabba zabba za dee 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 dee. Also, unusual intervals. Like somewhere.
The Simpsons.
Yeah. And techniques to get rid of earworms is to listen to the tune all the way through. Why would you think that would work?
Oh, interesting. Let's see. So if you're listening to the tune, you get the context, not just the little
snippet. Yeah. I think
that's the context. Then maybe gives you a bigger mental picture, and then you're like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. The metaphor in my head is that you're kind of combing. It's like the sand. You're taking a rake and you're just evenly raking the whole sand bed. You're starting from beginning. You're going all the way to the end, instead of just like some disturbance in the middle of the stand. Anyway. replace it with another piece of music, which obviously makes sense. And here's the kicker, Berto. Chewing gum apparently helps.
Oh, what?
Why would
it
that
destroys the rrhythm? Makes weird sounds.
Who
you
knows?
must love it when people chew gum into the mic.
Yeah, please don't. Don't even. God damn. Samina says, can you talk about using music in therapy? Yeah, so you can listen to our episode at 947, August 28, 2019, called Music Therapy in the Military. We actually interviewed, I think, our very first scholarship winner. Yeah, her name was Hannah Bronson. She's a music therapist, or she wanted to become a music therapist, or wait, I'm looking at so you can go to our website and look her up. But anyway, she's a music therapist. The point is that listen to that episode. And as with most expressive therapies, whether it's art therapy or dance movement therapy, you can use music in therapy for emotional expression, which are, you can express emotions more fully or differently than you can by talking about it. When you talk about your emotions, that's just one way of expressing your emotion to yourself and other people. And as I was talking about earlier, like a painting or a song can express an emotion that you can't even put into words. And so it can be similar in therapy. Also, meaning making, you can write a song or play a song, like say you lost a cat and you want to hear a song or sing a song or write lyrics, and then the therapist writes the song that expresses your sadness of losing someone. It also just feels good in therapy to do things like to express yourself through music or to play with play music with your therapist or with other people. A lot of music therapy is a group therapy experience. And also you can connect with other people, including your therapist, through music. So, and there's a lot of other usages of music in therapy.
What if you went to a therapist who's like, I'm a music therapist. And then you're like, okay. And then you're like, okay, now sit there. I'm going to play you a set of my songs. And then the whole therapy is them playing their songs to you.
Yeah.
And what do you think? What do you think of my songs?
Yeah. So I think that happens sometimes. Obviously not with most music therapists, but I think that
I should become a music therapist. That way I can force people to listen to my songs.
Yeah. Or the intervention is really focused on the therapist doing things rather than the client, which you and I have also experienced, Berto.
Yeah.
Last question. Artist Wolf on Discord says, I tend to listen to sad music when I'm sad. Is there a psychological value to listening to music that acknowledges your feelings rather than tries to change them? Or is this just wallowing in sadness and not beneficial at all? End of question. So there's some research, and it can go either way, that when you're angry and you listen to angry music, it can actually calm you down, or it can make you more angry. If you're sad and really demoralized and you listen to very sad music, it can actually lift your spirits, or at least help you to express your feelings and feel like you're moving through your emotions in a good way. Or it can make you more sad and maybe even, going down depression, suicide, this kind of thing. So like a lot of things, it's complicated, and it's highly dependent on the state the person's in, the kind of choices they're making as they're listening cognitively, how emotional they are, do they have support in addition to the music? So it really varies. You hear reports of people attempting suicide because they listened to a song that made them more sad, or committing an act of violence because a song motivated them to do that. So we've heard reports of that, and that can happen. And we all know the feeling of being sad and, a breakup, and you listen to a bunch of breakup music and you cry, but then you feel a little better afterwards. So it's really dependent. And so music, we can't just say listening to consonant music with your emotions is helpful. We can't say that, but it can be helpful. It could also be a bad thing. So, it's just hard to tell. There's also some helpfulness to listening to dissonant music. You're sad, you listen to happy music. It picks you up. It could also degrade your mood because you're just like, I don't understand why everyone's being happy. I'm sad. Like it's depressing to listen to other people being happy because I'm not happy. It just really depends. What do you think about that, Berto?
Yeah, I agree. So as I'm thinking about this, and I don't know if you're the same, but it sounds like you are a bit in that as I was growing up, I never tended to associate the music with my specific mood. Because you were saying a little bit about this, like you couldn't say like, well, that was a angry mood I felt while I was listening to that song. It's just some different feeling. And really what I would choose to listen to was always songs I loved. And that was a variety of things. And usually is whatever I was into at the time normally, right? And so as I think back, I'm like, well, I don't know. Like lately, a go-to of mine is Men at Work. I love those songs, and almost any one of those songs I would pop in and I'd be fine with it. Whether I am feeling sad or angry or happy, it would still work for me. So it's a little hard for me to say. I don't remember explicitly being like, oh, today is a Bob or a Bob Dylan sad kind of day, or a Cure song kind of day. I've never felt that way. I've always felt, oh, I need to listen to that song because that song I haven't heard in a while, or that's a song I love. So that's my experience. It's hard for me to relate to the tying a specific emotion to a specific song.
Yeah. I think I'm leaning in that direction, but I think I also can relate to people that will be in a mood and want to listen to a particular kind of music. Maybe when I was younger, it was more so. I would have a lot of angst and I'd want to listen to angsty music. I remember in college listening a lot to Public Enemy when I was having a lot of angst. 1989 is the summer.
This is
Fight
this
the
is
Power.
What,
like
right.
I just remember it really. Like there were moments when I was just like, I don't want to listen to D-Light. I don't want to listen to REM. I want to listen to Public Enemy because I'm angry right now and I want to do things to the world.
And I get that. I think this is why I wouldn't make a good DJ. In fact, I ran into this problem. Many years ago, a friend of mine asked me to bring, I had, those Bose speakers and stuff. And I was like, okay, they were having a wedding anniversary or something. So can you supply the music? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Oh, God.
And they're like, can you DJ? I'm like, not really, but I can bring, MP3s. What do you want? And so they gave me a list of stuff and I had it all. But I threw in a few things that I think are great songs.
Oh, no.
So we're sitting there, people are dancing, and then all of a sudden I pop in what I think is going to be an awesome moment. I put in Bob Seger, Night Moves. I love that song. Oh, this person got so mad at me. Like, what are you playing? I'm like, it's Night Moves. It's awesome. Like, you just brought the whole mood down. I'm like, what do you mean? It's an awesome song. And I think that is a problem, is that I think to be a DJ, you actually do have to pair the right song with the right mood, with the right moment.
Yeah.
And I don't tend to think of music that way. So I can't convey it properly to the person.
Well, so in defense of you, so this is off topic, but I guess it's on topic with music, is if you're getting married on the cheap, which is fine, then, and you're going to ask your friend to volunteer and they're going to have to degrade their experience because they can't have fun. Because you and I probably get asked these kind of questions a lot. Like, have you been asked a lot these sorts of like, we need help with the sound system at the wedding?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It got so bad in my life, Berto, that there were so many times where I would get asked this question. It's sort of like when you have a truck and everyone wants you to help
Everyone
them.
wants to move, yeah.
Yeah. Every time this would happen, and it would always completely fall apart because in order for me to do it right without it being a disaster, I have to spend probably hours and hours before the day of the wedding, getting everything set up, making sure everything sounds okay, making sure that everything can be set up on the day of. What if it rains? There's so many different things. People just think, people getting married, they're just like, well, Kirk, you understand these things. You just fiddle with the things. It got so bad in my life about, 10 years ago, that I just said to myself, the next time someone asks, I'm saying no. Why am I talking about this?
Because I was telling you the story of the host getting mad at me for playing a specific song.
Right. So, Berto, if they're going to, go on the cheap, fine.
Yeah.
But
Then
beggars
deal
can't be
with the frickin' Bob Seger.
right. Beggars can't be. Now you can have you could be like, I don't like this song, but Berto, you told him I'm not a DJ.
No. She got mad at me. She got mad at me.
Right. That's
By
some
the way,
BS.
this
That's
is
some
a
BS.
person.
That's some BS.
This
right
is
there.
a whole separate issue. Like this is a person that. Anyways, so yeah.
So if you're gonna hire someone on the cheap, and things don't go perfectly, I mean, at least songs were being played, right?
Yeah, no, and most of the time everyone was happy. And in fact, anyways, it's that kind of thing where like, but I will stand by my observation about myself that I tend to be very selfish when it comes to picking music. So reading the room may not be my strong suit in that case.
Me too. The reason why I will allow myself and I'll allow you that is that you and I love music because when we're in a room, you and I probably love music 10 times more than anyone else in the room.
Yeah, probably.
And so I always sort of say, look, the amount of jollies I'm going to get from playing this song far outweighs the jollies that you would get if I played one of your dumb songs. So
if you're counting jollies,
All right. Well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself and always, always, always dominate the playlist because
you deserve it.